Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Desert. We're so glad to have you with us this morning, whether here in the sanctuary or online. I'm Bryna Blum, and I'm today's worship associate, proud to be working in support of Reverend Ian Riddell at the conclusion of my High Holy Days. Before we begin, please take a moment to silence your noise-making technology. It might seem strange for someone who is Jewish to participate in a congregation that calls itself a church. Many of you have heard me say that for years I couldn't get the word church off my tongue. I certainly couldn't tell my kids where I was on Sunday mornings. The word church, I have learned, has more to do with Unitarian Universalism history than with our current beliefs. We all know that no one needs to change their beliefs to be here. We are a people of many beliefs, honoring each person's heritage, and it makes me proud to be able to share a Days of Atonement thought with you later in the service. I am Jewish in the same way that I am American, born to it out of a colorful ancestral mix. My ancestors arrived here at the beginning of the last century from Poland and Russia within the same 10-year stretch. Judaism fills my soul, and some days I still hunger for its traditions, almost, but not quite as much as I hunger for its food. That said, I am also a Unitarian Universalist because philosophically and intellectually, it feeds me here in my brain. I have found that my traditions as a Jew enriched me as a UU, and it is with my own heritage in mind that I acknowledge this beautiful land in the Coachella Valley as settled, developed, and cared for by the Kauai people whose land and water we benefit from today. Every day, wherever we look, we are confronted by any one of a list of phobias. There's homophobia, transphobia, xenophobia, Islamophobia, and throughout the ages, the one my tribe has lived with through the years, good old anti-Semitism. It's comforting to know that in this congregation, none of those exist or would even be tolerated. In this sanctuary on our sacred grounds, people of all sexual orientations and gender identities, all ages and sizes, of all economic statuses and professions, civic engagement, and of all physical and mental abilities are welcome. We welcome people of all races and ancestries and cultures. We welcome you wherever you come from, whoever you love, and whatever your immigration status. We welcome all those who will learn and grow with us as we commit together to embrace the rich and beautiful diversity of the world and build a community anchored in justice, compassion, and most importantly, in love. At this time, if you are a visitor or here for the first time, we invite you to stand and tell us just your name and where you are from. We can get to know you better at coffee hour that follows the service. Please stay and introduce yourselves. Do we have anyone on this side? This side. This side. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bill. Oh, thank you very much. I'm Bill, and I'm originally from Los Angeles, and I've lived here now for about a year, having been in several other places as well, but I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for letting me be here.
Good morning, Yolanda. I live in Rancho Mirage here in Southern California, and I do have a presence in Northern California, Campbell, California. Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm here. I'm kind of returning to here because I had come here years ago when you had lectures of various nature, and I enjoyed those. So I'm here today for the same
Your
reason.
name, please?
Linda from Palm Desert.
Welcome, welcome. And anyone in the far, I guess my left. Wonderful. We're happy to have you all here with us today. If you would like to be on our email list or to learn more about us, excuse me, and our programming, please contact us at admin@uucod.org or stop by the welcome table in the lobby after the service. Before Reverend Ian brings the Tibetan bowl, I would like to share these words that I read on UUA's Braver Wiser blog this week. The right time to act is always now. The most important person to focus on is the person you're with. And the most important task is to do good to others.
Come, come, whoever you are. Do you hear that voice calling you, calling us? That voice which calls us together here today in this room made holy by our presence and by the sacred breath we share in our singing and our speaking and our companionable silence. That voice which calls us to remember that we are not alone and that we are inextricably linked to all of other life, woven into a vast tapestry of existence of which we are a powerful, integral, humble, and holy part. And just as we have been called together here today, we act as the voice, the heart, the hands of another call. The call to walk with the wanderers, to sing and dance with the worshipers, to proclaim the memory of those who have taken their leave, to wrap the despairing and the broken in the arms of love and community, and hold the hands of all of us who have broken our vows and call us back again and again and again to the covenant and work of justice, humility, and steadfast faithfulness. For this we are here together today. So, my friends, come yet again, come. Let us worship together. And let us begin that worship with gratitude for all that life brings us, even when sometimes it's hard and challenging. Gratitude for community, gratitude for being here. Please rise in body or in spirit as we sing together our opening hymn, For All That Is Our Life. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its reward, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each good thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good
please join with me for our chalice lighting. Our chalice is a reminder that in hard times, our ancestors in faith acted with courage to bring hope and safety, to bring life itself to threatened people. We light it today as a reminder of who we are called to be in a world still dangerous and despairing. With courage and faith, we bring ourselves to the work before us. And now if Denise, Jens, and Igor would please come up and light the BIOPOC candles. Please join me. We light these candles in solidarity with Black, Indigenous, and other people of color as we journey together towards spiritual wholeness. May we, as a beloved community, work to dismantle racism and all forms of oppression. May we live out our values so that justice, dignity, and equity for all prevail.
This is the time in our service where we pause for a moment to share the joys and sorrows that are on our hearts, to share the pain that we carry into this space, to share the lightness and the love that we also bring with us in our minds and our hearts, in our spirits and in our bodies. And our world is full of things, friends, full of things for us to carry into this space with us. The beauty of nature around us, the care of our neighbors, the gentle touch of our friends, the joy of our little furry companions, the swelling pieces of hope that live in our hearts in the face of violence, the face of government-sponsored home invasions, in the space of shootouts in the streets, in the space of war, in the face of violence and death all around us. We carry with us joy and love as well. I know that these things weigh heavily on your hearts because they weigh heavily on mine. We carry so much in our hearts, friends. So much that is ours to hold alone, so much that is ours to share. We invite each other into our hearts. We invite each other into our lives so that our burdens are lighter and our joys are more joyful. And Bryna has a reflection to share with us now as well.
Good morning again. This is the 4th year I've done a reflection here at UUCOD following the Jewish High Holy Days and Day of Atonement. For those who don't know me, I'm Bryna Blum. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a Grammy, and I am a Jew. The first 3 are acceptable to everyone, everywhere. The last, not so much. For the last 3 reflections I've given, I've known what I wanted to say, and I sat down and wrote out my thoughts. This year, it hasn't been quite as easy. I told Reverend Ian that I didn't think I could do it. He said, okay. I then told my buddy, Jonathan Fass, that I couldn't find my words. He said, just sit down and start typing. What follows came out of just start typing. I am a proud Jew, happy that my people have a homeland. I am a proud American, happy that we too have a place to call home. I am also a humanist, and it pains me to see what harm is being done both here and in the Middle East and Ukraine and Sudan and Syria, and the list just goes on and on. Because these people also deserve a safe place to call home. It pains me to see how innocent lives are being shattered. I want to know what's happened to all the thou shalts and the thou shalt nots. Where is it written that babies should lose their limbs and families and starve? This season of my high holy days, I find myself asking, what's happened to our humanity. Like every Jew I know, I am appalled by what's going on in the Middle East. Prior to the Holy Days, I spent time talking to Desert Outreach Synagogue congregants who couldn't decide whether to rejoin. They didn't know how they felt about being Jewish. They are feeling great shame. The violence and the slaughter we see every day now is reminiscent of what was done to us not that long ago, and how generations later it still resonates with some of us, and yet seems to have been forgotten by others. We lost 6 million plus beautiful souls because of a charismatic leader. How can our leaders today, with even the smallest shred of conscience, not remember how that felt, and yet continue to inflict that on another helpless people? We talked for a while. What I told them is that they definitely should rejoin, because we, as other Jews, are the only ones who can understand the heartbreak they're feeling, and they need community. We all need community. And I'm very grateful that you're one of mine. It's a hard time to be Jewish, but then it's always been a hard time to be Jewish, just not this hard. Same as for those of us here. It's never been quite this hard to be an American. Thank you.
Thank you, Bryna. Friends, will you join me in a time of prayer, quiet, and meditation? Spirit of life, we come together today in pain and in hope, in worry and in certainty, in anger and in love. We come gathered together holding in our hearts all the pain of the world, pain of our own lives. Come together wondering what is next. And we come together because we know that in each of our hearts, in each of our minds, each of our spirits, each of our bodies, there are sparks of hope, sparks of joy, sparks of possibility. And we come together knowing that those sparks are kindled when they meet other sparks, when we share them with each other, when we share each other's pain and share each other's hope. May our hearts be strengthened by our connections. May our bodies be renewed by our gathering as community. May our spirits be lifted. May our minds be made clear as we gather together here in this place, pausing for a moment in time before we begin the work of our lives again. We come together in gratitude. We come together in sorrow. Come together in hope. And we come together in deep and profound love. And so we pause here in this space, held by this community, pause in the embrace of that love which is broader and deeper and more eternal than we can know. Held by it, held by each other, we pause and breathe into the holy quiet. May all beings know peace. May all beings know an end to suffering. May all beings know love. Friends, will you join your beautiful voices together, however tremulous, however strong, join your voices together as we sing our hymns for meditation, Spirit of Life, and Fuente de Amor. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots holy grows, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Fuente de amor, ven hacia mí, y al corazón, cántale tu compasión. Sopla volar, sube en la mar, hasta moldear la justicia de la vida. Ay, amén, libérame, fuente de amor, ven a mí, ven a mí. Thank you. Your voices are a healing thing. One of the things that can be challenging for a minister and a congregation is paying attention to festivals and celebrations and commemorations that happen regularly. The cycle of a church year that always includes an ingathering and Christmas and equinoxes and Hanukkah and Mother's and Father's Day, and finding ways to explore these seasons and occurrences in new ways each and every year, so that I'm not standing here saying the same thing to you every year. Although there are some messages that do bear repeating often. And I've also made it a personal tradition, which has impact on all of you, to set aside one Sunday around this time of year to reflect on the themes and practices that are at the heart of the Jewish High Holy Days. These 10 days, starting with Rosh Hashanah, Jewish New Year, which was last month, and ending with Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, which was this past Thursday. These days and the celebrations around them are a deeply meaningful time for our Jewish neighbors and kin. During these days, through fasting, prayer, and reflection, Jews are invited to take a serious look at their lives, at the ways they may have missed the mark in their actions or their relationships, the ways in which their communities may have missed the mark, and to seek forgiveness and to commit to doing better. It's about reckoning with the past and choosing to begin again with intention. As a minister, I think it's important to take this time each year to learn from these traditions. We Unitarian Universalists are often really, really good at leaning into the joyful side of being human, celebrating hope and growth and potential and how wonderful human beings are, which is great. But it's also just as important to be honest about the ways that we all of us, fall short. And to recognize that doing the hard work of repair, owning our mistakes, making amends, can lead to deeper relationships and stronger, more compassionate communities. I feel this especially this year because knowing ourselves clearly, honestly, deeply in love and care is a necessary place to be when facing the reality of the erosion of truth and trust and connection and safety around us, to see our part in the systems we are so committed to changing. And so the service today is also a part of our series on spiritual practices, which can help us find resilience and strength and deeper connection to our values as we figure out how to grapple with the reality of the world and our hearts and our relationships. How do we respond in the face of the things that happened this week? I spent some time looking back about what we've talked about over the past few years on this Sunday, and we have appropriately spent a lot of time thinking about apology and repentance and repair. This year, today, though, I'd like to focus elsewhere a little earlier in the process. I want to look at our acknowledgement and our awareness that we can do harm, that we can fall short of our ideals. How do we pay attention to this? How do we figure out what we need to repair, what we need to apologize for? I want to come back to the thinking and writing of Rabbi Alan Liu and his book, This is Real and You Are Completely Unprepared: The Days of Awe as a Journey of Transformation. Rabbi Liu was a Buddhist turned rabbi who taught and led congregations in New York State and in the Bay Area here in California. In his book, Rabbi Liu thinks and writes about the practices and challenges of the festivals of the high holy days and the weeks around them. For him, this entire sequence of ritual and practice heals us and our relationship with each other and with the divine, because it asks us, invites us, demands that we look deeply into our own hearts and minds and see clearly the patterns of action and inaction, of fear and cruelty, of care and kindness. See how those patterns shape and either distort or bless our lives and relationships. He reminds us that the Hebrew word teshuvah, which is a deep part of this season, means a turning, return, a facing of the self. He writes, a simple turn of mind, a turn toward consciousness, a turn away from denial, from the inertia, from the passive momentum of our lives, a turn away from those things that continue to happen unconsciously, and a conscious decision to change. The blowing of the shofar, the ram's horn that is blown many times over the course of these holy days, reminds us, he says, to turn our gaze inward, to ask, how do I make things better in the here and now of my actual experience, the only time and place in which I'm empowered to act? Can't change the past. The future is out there. I can act now. To see what is getting in the way and causing harm, and to commit to changing it. He writes, the result of this holy introspection, this judgment and analysis and embrace of who we are and what we've been doing, brings us the possibility for change. When we pay attention, everything enlightens us, even the things we think of as our mistakes. Now, of course, our Jewish friends and kin are not the only religious tradition who invites or expects its adherents to pay attention to the ways we are behaving in the world. Many Buddhist traditions invite followers into committing themselves to precepts or ways of behavior that they are expected to pay attention to in their daily lives, to refrain from intoxicants, for example, or violent speech. And during meditation and other practices, to see clearly and honestly, with loving kindness, the ways that we may have fallen short of these aspirations about those behaviors. And if you grew up in a Christian tradition, you may remember practices or prayers or rituals where you were asked to acknowledge the ways in which you had acted sinfully. Perhaps you grew up Catholic and were expected to go to confession regularly to unburden yourself of your sinful ways. I grew up in a tradition, Anglicanism, where we didn't have individual confession, for which I think when I was a kid I was very grateful, but I don't know about anymore. But every Sunday, we certainly recited together the general confession. most of which I'll admit I still say correctly when I try. One crucial part of it being this: Almighty and most merciful Father, we have erred and strayed from thy ways like lost sheep. We have followed too much the devices and desires of our own hearts. We have offended against thy holy laws. We have left undone those things which we ought to have done, and we have done those things which we ought not to have done. And there is no health in us. That last bit still gets me. It's one of the reasons I'm a Unitarian now. Not that I don't think we can do bad things, but I don't think we're born that way. Many of you, like me, may have left these traditions behind, or come here with parts of them and left other parts of them behind. But I think there is some good in paying attention to one Christian practice, originally alongside the Jewish practice, one Christian practice, originally a Catholic practice, that may offer us a direction to build our own practices around this. I'm talking about a daily prayer practice called the Examen, developed as part of his spiritual exercises by Ignatius of Loyola. Ignatius was a Spanish Basque Catholic priest and theologian who founded the Society of Jesus, which we commonly call now the Jesuits, in 1540. He had a profound spiritual conversion as a soldier, which inspired him to deep commitment to spiritual discipline and education, which became the foundation of that Jesuit order. He is best known for his spiritual exercises, a structured program of prayer, meditation, and contemplation designed to deepen a person's relationship with the divine and discern the will of the divine in their lives. The Jesuit practice of the Examen, which we're going to talk about today, is part of these spiritual exercises. The Examen is a daily spiritual reflection intended to heighten awareness of the divine and clarity about one's life. The Examen has been used and developed and adapted by Jesuits and other Christians since the 1500s. I'm going to share a more modern version that is grounded in Ignatius's original. Those of you who grew up Catholic may have gone to Jesuit schools. You may have some experience with this. The practitioner begins by centering, seated or standing or kneeling, centering and becoming aware of themselves in relation to the divine and the surroundings that they're in. And begins with expressing gratitude. Gratitude, what are you thankful for today? What gifts have you been given that you are thankful for? And then a move into a request for help, asking for what one needs to be ready to pay attention to life in this way. Ignatius' words for this, and why I went with the modern version, are, ask for the grace to know my sins and root them out. Not a bad practice. And then review, then think back on your day or month or year. What brought me joy today? What challenged me? Where did I offer and receive love? And where did I err or fall short? Or in the Catholic tradition, where did I sin? Ignatius' own words says that this is an account of my soul from the moment of rising to that of the present examination, hour by hour, period by period, my thoughts, my words, and my deeds. And then in this tradition, one turns one's prayers to God and says, how can I improve? And then looking forward, in what spirit do I want to start tomorrow? That is a more modern version of the Ignatian Examen. It's a flexible and personal practice that encourages mindfulness, gratitude, and spiritual growth. It's meant to bring a person closer to the divine and also meant to help a person discern and improve in service of living a more loving and integrated life. By engaging in this kind of daily prayer, the practitioner is invited to listen more closely to the story of their life, the story of their feelings. Father Dennis Ham calls the process rummaging, digging deeply and searching for the divine and ourselves and the relationship between the two. And it's not a one-off process. Practicing regularly is an invitation to see patterns and challenges in our lives, to see what keeps coming back. Rabbi Liu also highlighted this outcome of regular self-assessment. We have to look, he said, look long enough to see the recurring patterns. What keeps coming back? What circumstances keep repeating themselves in our lives? What is the unresolved element that keeps bringing us back to the same moment over and over again? What is it that we keep getting wrong, he said? What is it that we persistently refuse to look at or fail to see? These traditions tell us that it is this practice of returning and turning again and again, whether it is the daily examen or the yearly work of the high holy days or any other practice like this, returning again and again, that leads to spiritual transformation. An important thing to remember, neither of these practices, at least as I've heard them described to me or what I've learned as I've read, neither of these practices necessarily say that this is a practice of learning how awful we are, of learning how sinful our hearts are, how unworthy we are, of seeing our inherent sinfulness. That's not what these practices are about. Both Rabbi Liu and the Christian practitioners from whom I've learned about these things are clear that we are to love ourselves during this process, that we are to understand ourselves as loved, that we are to be accountable for our actions, yes, but that we also are to remember that we are loved and held and blessed, just as Buddhists would invite us to hold our entire complex, messy selves in loving kindness as central to the work of transformation. And so in pondering these things today, I wonder what might be a practice for us Unitarian Universalists who might not have the specific connections to those religious practices. What might be learn and hear in these practices that we can bring to ourselves? And so I'm going to invite you to listen, and I'm going to share with you what I think might be a good practice. I don't have a handout for you. But I'll send it out later if you want it. But I'm going to invite you just to be quiet, and I'm not going to give a huge amount of time to this, but I want you to hear just how it might work for a Unitarian Universalist to work through some of these things. And so I would invite us to begin by centering ourselves, by holding ourselves in love and in care. If that's breathing deeply for you, that's great. If not, just being present for yourself. And then set an intention to look at this day or this week or this year. Be intentional about looking at it with clarity, honesty, and love. Remember, this work is not to convince yourself or reconvince yourself that you are a horrible person, a miserable sinner. It is to see your actions and thoughts and words clearly with love. And so, we do this now. If you do this in the evening, look back at your day, the day that is past, and ask, when did I live into my values? What am I really proud of from this past day? And then ask yourself, when did I not live into my values? What actions or inactions am I least proud of? When I think of this, I hear the words of recently of Rabbi Danya Rutenberg, who wrote in her blog earlier this year, you know that nagging feeling you get when the still small voice tells you you haven't necessarily been the optimal version of yourself, acted in optimal integrity? That feeling you usually try to shove aside because it's so inconvenient? This is the time to let it surface. What is it trying to tell you? Pout if you must, she says, but admit who you've done wrong to and start to figure out what the next step might be. So we take a moment to take some time to look back at our day and wonder what went well, what might have gone better, where did I live into love, where did I not live into love? And then ponder those places that you've fallen short and set some intentions for tomorrow. Be aware of your feelings. How might I improve? Can I commit to not being that way, not doing that thing? And then meditate or pray or breathe. Hold yourself in loving kindness and rest in love. So something to think about, a practice that might be meaningful for you. You might use this practice to pay attention to how you're living into your specific values. You may use this practice to pay attention to how you're living into one relationship or another that is giving you grief or trouble. You might hold our 6 shared values: justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, generosity. You might hold one of those values or all of them as part of this practice. Where am I living into the value of generosity in my life? Where has it fallen short? This is a practice, these are practices of being accountable to our values, being willing to see ourselves clearly in fierce and loving honesty. I'm called to the words of Octavia Butler, as I often am, who wrote, "To make peace with others, make peace with yourself. Shape love with generosity and compassion. Minimize harm, shield the weak, treasure the innocent, be true to the possibility and potential of love. Forgive your enemies, forgive yourself." I hope that these practices are things, whether they are a part of your regular religious practice, your Buddhist practice, your prayer practice, or not, whether they are new to you, whether the Jewish practices of the High Holy Days or the Ignatian practices of the Examen, whatever speaks to you, that you find a way, that we each find a way to do 2 things at the same time. To see who we are, to see what we've done, to see the way we are in the world, and honestly see that, and to hold ourselves in love. And I want to share with you today, maybe this is my general confession, share with you today that as I worked on this sermon this week, as I worked on this service this week, as I got to the end of my sermon yesterday and was looking it over, I realized something that caused me a little bit of angst and fear, something that caused me a little bit of pain. And I want to call it out, especially because of what Bryna said today. We are here honoring the High Holy Days, the practices of the High Holy Days of the Jewish tradition. And I want to acknowledge that Jesuits have not always been the least anti-Semitic people in our world, and have done a lot, as many Christian traditions did, but did a lot to aid and abet colonialism, to aid and abet the destruction of other religious traditions, and to aid and abet the anti-Semitism in Europe and other places. And so I want to hold the truth that there's a practice that is powerful, but that it comes in that context. And I also know, I looked again this morning, the Book of Common Prayer from which I read that general confession to you, also contains in the 1962 edition, the edition that I grew up with a child, as a prayer for the Jews, which was not a prayer for the Jews. It was a prayer for conversion. And so I hold in my heart, especially with Bryna's words, and I'm grateful for your words, that these traditions, these religious traditions, also come with pain. But I think that the practices are good. But I needed to say out loud that I acknowledge those facts as we go forward. And this is the work we do. The work we do is to see and to say, this isn't right. How can I change this? And so I hold up this practice of accountability to you as a way to invite you to figure out how to deepen your relationships, figure out how to deepen your connections with whatever it is that you hold as divine. Deepen our connections with each other so that we stand and sit and roll together, understanding our connections in the face of fear and hatred and cruelty. Make peace with others, make peace with yourself. Shape love with generosity and compassion, minimize harm, shield the weak, treasure the innocent. Be true to love, my friends. May it be so. Will you rise in body and spirit and sing together the words of Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav, O hear my people. O hear and good suffice. And source of peace, lead us to peace, a place profound and wholly true, and lead us to a mastery, or drives in us that war pursue. May deeds we do inscribe our name as blessings in the book of life. O source of peace, lead us to heal. Of source of peace, lead us from strife. Thank you, friends.
Before we start congregational news, the piece that Chip played for the offertory is called Avinu Malkeinu. Translated, it means, hear my plea. Thank you, Chip. Next Sunday is Stocks on the 2nd. This is a reminder to please bring, as there are many living on the street who are in desperate need. As I said last week, and you will continue to hear, the auction is coming, the auction is coming. Check the newsletter for the online form and additional details, or see Carol Lavoie, our auction goddess. Our social justice warrior has returned to us. So Denise Jansen-Eager, come up and do your thing.
It's good to be home. Lots going on. We're starting our busy season today. If you signed up for the ballot proposition discussion, make your way into the community room a little before 10:30. We're going to try to start promptly. If you signed up to watch it online, you should have received the link from Fran Hogue last night. Second thing, today is the last chance to buy your own Side with Love t-shirt. Tonight, I press that button and the sale will be over. It is your last chance. T-shirts will be here after October 20th, so you can pick yours up here at the church. No Kings Rally. There are 4 events in the Coachella Valley. Yeah. The organizers wanted it so, the national organizers wanted it so nobody would have to travel. 4 events from Idlewild all the way down to the Cathedral City, the 2 in Palm Springs. Throughout the day, look in last Friday's newsletter for all the information. And on Thursday, October 16th, we are having a sign-making party here in the community room. And more information will be in the newsletter next Friday. And finally, November 9th, I hope it's on your calendar. It is the Pride Parade. Sign up to ride or walk will begin next Friday. Look in the newsletter. And just so you know, Reverend Ian and hopefully Rabbi Jules right now will be holding a co-service. We'll be leading the co-service at 3 o'clock that afternoon. So everybody will be able to attend the Pride Parade. So hope to see you all there. For more information, look in the newsletter.
Thank you, Denise. Received from Barbara Storms. Are you interested in learning more about UUCOD and Unitarian Universalism and what becoming a member of UUCOD entails? You're invited to attend our upcoming new member classes after church on Sunday, October 19th, and Sunday, November 2nd. For more information, talk with someone at the welcome table or contact the membership committee at membership@uucod.org. From Jane Zahn, our in-gathering Sunday worship service is next week, Sunday, October 12th. The Stewardship Committee is sponsoring a potluck immediately following the service. There are sign-up forms on the round table in the lobby, so please come join us. Also from Jane, the Dining Divas Night Out is next Monday, October 13th. Be sure to let her know if you are coming. There's a sign-up sheet in the lobby for that, too. From Rob DeWars, the men's breakfast is next Saturday, October 11th at 8:30 in the morning, right here in the community room. Patrick, Walter, and Rob will be putting together a light breakfast for everyone, and contributions are welcome. This month's Healthy Aging class will be about spiritual happiness, a return to wholeness. It is Wednesday, October 15th at 10 a.m. Topics include Who Am I? And strategies for regaining internal peace. The class will feature Harriet Rosetto, founder and past CEO of Bet Teshuvah Recovery Center in LA, and it will be participatory. Flyers are also outside. 2 gentle reminders: if you'd like to be on our email list to learn more about us and our programming, please stop by the welcome table. And if you'd like to participate in the service by lighting the chalice or the BioPOC candles, there's a sign-up sheet for that too. For everyone who had a part in today's service, thank you, thank you. To the AV team who week in and week out work with great humor. To the membership team and their greeters and ushers, to the hospitality crew that feeds us, to the incredible Chip Prince, whose music raises me up every time. And to Reverend Ian, I really appreciate you. Now let us extinguish the chalice. Please read along with me. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Looking at worship in the next little while. So next week is our in-gathering service. We're going to do a little water communion. So I invite you to bring some water from home. It doesn't have to be from far away. Bring a little container of water as part of our ritual for next week. The week after that is our blessing of the animals service again. We will be meeting outside. So if you have a small furry creature or feathered creature or scaled creature who can handle being around other animals and people, please bring them. If you have a dog like mine who can't, bring a picture. We'll be outside. And then to reiterate what Denise said, looking further afield into November, on November 9th, we will not have a 10 a.m. service. We will have a 3 p.m. service on Pride Sunday so that everyone can go to the Pride Parade and the people on the Pride Parade can go to church. So keep your eye on the newsletter for those things. Friends, I want to close today with these words from my dear friend and colleague, the Reverend Joseph Cherry. If we have any hope of transforming the world and changing ourselves, we must be bold enough to step into our discomfort, brave enough to be clumsy there, loving enough to forgive ourselves and others. May we, as a people of faith, be granted the strength to be so bold, so brave, and so loving. Go in peace, my dear ones, to love and serve the world.